All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Dedicated to the Craft, a podcast brought to you by Ballast Point Brewing Company. I'm Jeff Lozano, your host, and today we have a very interesting conversation with a good friend of mine, Mr. Ben Wood. Beer guy. He might be the busiest guy in beer, and he's originally from Connecticut. He resides in Santiago, Chile now, moved all the way down there, a founding partner and creative director of Beervana, which is a craft beer importer, a co-owner of Alameda Beer Company, and an owner of El Honesto Mike, which is a craft beer bar in Chile and one of their premier craft beer bars. Ben is also certified beer Cicerone and has been working in the industry for about 10 years. So me and Colby Chandler sit down, we have a couple of brews, we have some labs, and we let Ben tell his incredible story. He's not nearly done. He has a long way to go. So sit back and enjoy. But before we get to that conversation, let's do some good brew housekeeping. Thanks for everybody that supported the Padres in this phenomenal season that we have. We are out of it, but better luck next year. We'll get there again. And to everybody that came out to buy some of our Pinstripe lager, which is our postseason brew for the Padres, good on you. I'm glad that you got to taste it. Those of you that didn't, next season, we'll definitely be here again. We'll go ahead and brew that up for you. Victory at Sea is back in our tasting rooms. It's that time of year, so we're really excited. Feel free to swing by any of them and pick up a 6-pack of the good stuff. And Oktoberfest is back this year. We have a bunch of Oktoberfest beers, German-inspired ales, for anywhere from our Dead Ringer Marzen to our Fest beer, a smoked beer, a Munich Helles. It's just my favorite time of the year. It's good stuff. Chris's and Aaron down at Little Italy brewed it up this year again, and it's really tasty. Go and grab yourself a stein and let the festivities pour. Without further ado, our conversation with Ben Wood. Benito, Lord Chandler, how's it going?
Good, man. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing phenomenal, man.
Excellent.
Saludos, my friend.
Oh, salud.
From different time zones.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. I don't know which one I want to start with. Hey, man, listen, thanks for jumping on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I'm so excited because, one, we get to do it in my native tongue, and
Yep.
it's a little easier for me.
I'm out. Yeah. Colby barely speaks English.
No, by that I just mean buzzed. That's the language we all speak.
Oh yeah, I got that one.
Sure.
Yeah. That one.
I'm fluent.
Yeah.
Hey Ben, thanks for joining us from Chile. What's the weather like down there?
I'm here in Santiago, Chile. It's beautiful right now, man. It's about 85 degrees, sun's out. It's Friday. People are stoked. Our patios, I don't want to say it's full of people because it's not, but there are people enjoying some beers outside in the fresh air. And we are really excited to have things starting up again here, sort of post-COVID.
Yeah. We'll get into how COVID has affected your particular area. That's something foreign to us, literally. But so I was introduced to you by Mr. Colby Chandler. He put me into contact with you when you were hunting for a Ballast Point brewer to kind of jump on a show down, virtually in Santiago, Chile, because we really couldn't fly down there. So I took that off his hands, and it was really fun. I gotta say, I was very surprised as to how passionate your craft beer drinkers are down there. Yeah,
craft beer in Chile. Colby came down here 4 or 5 years ago, I want to say now. Yeah. He really saw it when the diapers were firmly still on, and it's grown massively over the past 6, 7, 8 years. We're seeing beer drinkers just go absolutely nuts for IPAs, whereas when we started, people had no idea what an IPA was, so on and so forth. And the amount of people that have gotten into the sort of craft brewing scene here has been extraordinary. So we're really excited, and it's been a great thing to see. You know what I mean? It's like I saw it in the U.S. Many years ago in the sort of 2009 to 2012 heyday, especially on the East Coast. And as soon as we got here, it was nothing. It was ground zero. Yeah. So as we've grown, people have just gotten really into it. People love beer from all over the world, but we've seen a real turnaround for IPAs and hoppier beers, and yeah, people really love Ballast Point. So it was awesome having you guys on.
Well, you're a great ambassador for it. I jumped on your happy hour that you do on your Instagram channel, the Beervana channel, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And everybody was just hitting me up left and right after that, saying, "Hey, that was so cool! Thanks." Like if I had done them a huge favor, and I was like, "Dude, this is what I love to do. Me and Colby do this all the time. It's part of our job." But you're a great ambassador for it, and I have to say that it sounded like a lot of people that are really, really into the craft beer scene, I guess, the Santiago craft beer scene, because you import a lot with your company. They are kind of guided by you. You do a lot of posting, you do a lot of guided tastings, and you tell a lot of stories.
Actually, just last night we had a tasting with the small batch team from Stone, Cecil and Steve Gonzalez and Jeremy. Which is pretty amazing and pretty fun. And, it was sort of a Spanglish mix. I try, Chile is a pretty English speaking country in general. I mean, in the grand scheme of things. But I like to try to do things in Spanish just out of respect for the country and for the language. And I think, the scene here has become such that, when people are able to interact with people in the US, especially in their own language, that it goes above and beyond. People really dig that, and they kind of create this personal connection with the brands. And so far, I mean, we've done tastings with Ballast Point, obviously, with Stone, Belching Beaver. I'm waiting on I did one for Modern Times. We did one with Firestone Walker with their yeast wrangler, Alfredo.
Rad.
And that was really cool because he's been working in the beer industry for like 20 odd years. He used to work for White Labs, then he moved up to Firestone. It was really cool. And he's a native Spanish speaker. So we really went, deep dive on that. And we've been importing beer from San Diego. Specifically, we sort of branched out recently, we've been working with Ballast Point from day one, and Coronado from day one too, and now we work with Ballast Point, Coronado, Modern Times, Carl Strauss, Belching Beaver, Stone, Firestone Walker, and I know I'm leaving one out.
All the good ones. All the good.
Yeah. And then coming up, we'll be bringing in stuff from Oscar Blues and Cigar City off the East Coast, and then we're gonna see what happens after that. So we're pretty excited.
What of all those brands is the hot ticket right now down there?
It's a real mix. I mean, people, to be honest, people were really stoked that Ballast Point is sort of reinventing itself again. It's like. We kind of saw this sort of lull a little bit in some of the response, but when people were like, "Wait, Grapefruit Sculpin's back!" people went nuts. I just posted the other day that Grunyon's coming here for the first time in 3 or 4 years or something like that, and again, people are can't wait. And one of our biggest brands is Victory at Sea. People go nuts for that beer, myself included. But yeah, the IPAs are really killing it for us. We have about 45 different beers. I'd probably say about 25 of those are in the sort of IPA category. Nice. So yes, 7 years ago, I could never have imagined that, we'd be selling as much IPA as we do, which is pretty rad.
Well, let's go a little bit farther than 7 years.
Sure.
What you got quite a story, man, and you're a busy man, and I want you to talk about everything that you're doing for the beer scene in general, but very much more specifically for your area. What got you into the industry, and where did you start?
Yeah, so I'm it's kind of wild. I'm fifth generation of my family to work in the beer industry. My great grandfather or great grandfather, owned a brewery in Boston. Which when Prohibition came and went, it didn't really survive. My grandfather worked for Anheuser-Busch for about 40 years. and then had a distributorship just outside of New York City, or in the Bronx and Westchester County, which is sort of the next. It'd be like Orange County to San Diego County or something like that. And all of my family worked there when I was a real little kid, and then things happened, and people went on to do other things. The distributorship kind of disappeared, and a couple. About 2009, I was living in London, and the economy just fell out and just, imploded in that. And I was, the Great Recession, and I lost my job. I was working in the music industry in that moment.
Okay.
Cool. Working with a bunch of beer brands as well, smaller brands, but, Sierra Nevada had just gone into the UK. Brooklyn Brewery had just gone to the UK. So, I mean, I was really excited that like my local bar, like I could go drink Sierra Nevada Pale Ale at my local bar, at my pub, which was like mind blowing at the time. And 2009, I kind of had to go back to the US with my, tail between my legs because I didn't have a job. My job was eliminated. And I finally got a job into in the beer industry as I was a guinea pig. They kind of created this sales rep job. Most sales rep at a beer distributor, they work with maybe 100 different brands, but in New York City, they'll have 10 blocks in Manhattan, river to river, selling those 10 brands. And my job was to work with 4 brands, but across 14 counties of New York. So that was all 5 boroughs in New York City, all of Long Island, and then up both sides of the river north, up until, the middle of nowhere, basically. And Ballast Point was one of those brands. So I started working with Ballast Point in 2009. Actually, this is this work shirt I got in 2009 too.
I can tell by the shirt.
Still fits. Nice.
I was about to say congratulations,
Yeah, I am neither fatter nor skinnier than I was back then. All right, here we go. So then, basically I worked really closely with Earl, the former sales manager, and I met, Colby came out to New York a bunch of times. And we had a lot of fun running around the city.
I bet.
And 2012 came around, and basically for some family issues, I decided to move to Chile to live closer to my daughter. And I decided that if I was going to move to Chile, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And working in New York City at that time in craft beer, it was awesome. I mean, actually Earl Kite dubbed my company's name because he referred to myself and a bunch of other beer reps that sort of ran around the city as the craft beer mafia. And we were always looking out for one another and making sure that, if somebody was, some macro brand was gunning for our tap handles, we'd go in there in full force and, work with the bar to kind of, branch things out and make it really interesting for them. And 2012, I decided to kind of make the move. And, I let Earl know pretty early on that I was going to be moving. And I remember he asked me, he was like, what are you going to do when you go to Chile? And I was like, I don't no idea. You know what I mean? I was totally clueless at that point. And he goes, no. He's like, I know exactly what you're going to do. And he was like, okay. And he's like, you're going to be the Ballast Point importer in Chile. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's really, I got a lot of thanks to give to the Ballast Point crew for helping putting all the gears in motion here, so that effectively, Ballast Point was one of the first brands that we started working with, and we still do.
That's fascinating.
And from there, he was like, oh, when you go to Chile, you're not going to be the craft beer mafia anymore. You're going to be the craft beer cartel. So our company name, our parent company is Craft Beer Cartel Chile. Like, that's the legal name on all the documents and all the bank statements and all that.
It keeps you guys scary. Nobody comes knocking at your door. Everybody kind of
No, all good. So we started up very small scale bootstrapping 7 odd years ago with Beervana, and we've been haven't slowed down since. It's been great.
Is that when you changed your name to Ben Wood when you moved to Chile? Because you used to be known as Dan Trees, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I have a nickname that was dubbed. We were at a meeting in New York at Union Beer at the time, and the owner, or one of the sort of higher ups in the company, he didn't know who I was. But funny enough, I have a weird family history with him because my grandfather used to work in the beer industry and stuff like that. And yeah, he came up and, he was meeting Earl and Colby, and we had just come out of this meeting, and he was looking at me and he was like, he had no idea who I was. And I can't remember if it was Earl or Colby. He goes, yeah, your name, we know your name is Ben Wood, but I'm sure that guy thought you were, I don't know, Dan Trees or something like that. And it completely stuck. And so I still have friends in New York City who refer to me as Dan Trees. And
your name's getting changed in my phone.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So instead of Ben Wood, Dan Trees.
Yeah. Now you invest in wallpaper.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, well, I gotta, part.
That makes so much more sense to me now that story came out. So you get to Chile. You go there for one thing, but your passion kind of follows you along serendipitously. What is the scene? What you're getting plopped down in Chile as a craft beer dude? What's craft beer like at that point?
Man, I mean, the local scene was, I don't want to say it was non-existent, but it was tiny. There were a handful of breweries that were, Tubinger, the T-shirt that Colby's got on is one of the sort of earlier brands here in Chile. Shout out Tubinger. I also worked for Tubinger when I first moved down here.
Oh, no way.
It was, again, trying to get somebody to try an IPA, it was like nobody had any idea how to make a decent IPA. People were always super nervous about, using a ton of hops because the Chilean market was always very, sweet. It was all like malt focused, Belgian styles, British styles. Things like that just never took off, or they were just terrible.
Smoke beers. I remember a lot of smoke beers.
Yep, a lot of smoke beers.
I loved, which was right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
I think access to ingredients was an issue back then too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, was very limited.
Dry yeast, right? Nobody was really using liquid yeast at all. Refrigeration's pretty much non-existent.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then you got quality of hops, and all those things lead to not necessarily the best IPA, no matter how good you are cooking it up.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, it came down to that, and people had, it was good for us at that time because people were there was some disenchantment with the local beer scene because exactly what, Colby's saying, the quality just wasn't there, there were some real issues with bottling procedures. So, I can't tell you how many oxidized beers I've tried, in Chile, for brands that want to come in, and it's like, man, I really want to try your beer, but I know that something went wrong in the bottling process because this shouldn't taste like that, So I mean, so even from there, I mean, we've come full circle. I mean, now there are some great brands that are making some really awesome beers. We started a brewery, we started a brewery. We merged with a brewery a couple years ago, which is called Alameda Beer Company, which is this is our,
see the goods.
It's our Pre-Emergencia. It's like New England style IPA.
Oh, that's some dope artwork, dude.
Yeah. So we work with this really awesome designer named Godersi, and we've been making beer now for 3 years, and a name change in there. Colby actually came to the brewery back in the day. We started on the 4th floor of a parking garage, which was pretty weird.
So on the 4th floor.
Yep.
Wow,
yeah, I mean,
great. Grain.
You gotta think
grain up there must be fun.
Yeah, it was a real blast. So I mean, the brewing scene here has just gone leaps and bounds. I mean, now we have breweries who are importing their own hops, importing their own yeast. A lot of they're able to manage their yeast now. people they really took the next step, which is great. So, I mean, we've got a long way to go still, but I mean, just from a quality standpoint, it has gone, I can't even light years from where it was 5 years ago.
Well, what's interesting in that is that you're kind of plopped into a world where you and maybe Colby and I would probably be like, yeah, the beer's not that good down here, but we're coming from a very different world that had a very different evolution when it comes to craft beer. Yep. To not only go down and introduce that kind of beer, but not necessarily convince, because that's not the right word, but people probably acclimate their palates to that and they start to really like what we would consider a little off. They like it. And so when you introduce something that's a lot more aggressive, let's say in the hops, or maybe even balanced or less oxidized, did you find that people were not being receptive to good beer, and did it kind of confuse you?
No, it was quite the opposite. I mean, I remember the first container that we imported. We were kind of nervous. We didn't import Sculpin at first because we were super nervous that people weren't going to buy it. It was like, and I was like, I don't care. I'm bringing Sculpin for me. You know what I mean? Like, it was a completely selfish act, for some of the beers that we first brought. But I remember we brought, Sculpin, we brought, West Coast IPA from Green Flash at that time, Palette Wrecker. We brought a couple other beers from some other breweries that was just like, I remember like, when we opened the doors, I mean, there was a line out the door and we sold out of a bunch of the beer because people were like, I've waited so long to be able to try a fresh IPA, and watching them drink it and just, you could see the sparks like develop in their brain, like complete mind blow of what was happening. And people went crazy, and it was like, well, when that happens, I mean, it's humbling in a lot of way, because, we've become sort of a reference point for quality, in quality beers in Chile and now the rest of South America. I mean, we had people from Peru and Argentina being like, hey, can you send us beer? And I'm like, we can't, like it's a little harder than that, than just putting it in a box and shipping it,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, people, I think we helped raise the bar, for the quality standpoint. So yeah, like, I mean, people were used to, very hop muted, malt forward beers, that was fine in its moment. But man, when people started getting into, or like imperial stouts or, barrel aged stouts or, even like a really well crafted lager. Yeah. I mean, people just like, you could see it in their eyes. You could see them just go like, whoa, what is this?
That's so rad.
And yeah, so that's been super exciting, to be a part of, to watch that whole, wave, happen,
How many breweries were in Santiago in the beginning, or kind of when I visited, compared to now?
I'd probably say like, there would probably be around
12 or 15.
Yeah, like 12 or 15
when I was there.
Like then, yeah, and then now, this is like 2013 or 14, I want to say.
Yeah, 14.
And then, yeah, like nationwide, I mean, they say there's about 200 breweries now. So back then there was probably like 100 and some odd, but we're talking like a really small scale too. I mean,
right.
What Ballast Point is probably, throwing out because of the process is what a lot of these brewers are going to make in a month,
right?
Right. 200 liters, 500 liters, 1,000 liters. I mean, that's not a ton of beer, but for the market, I mean, we're only 18 million people here, so it's not huge. It's not huge either, but yeah, I mean, I think now that number is probably around the same. Maybe a little. There's a couple more breweries, but the breweries who have been able to stick around and last this long have just come leaps and bounds in terms of the quality of their beer. So I mean, we sell a ton of beer from local domestic beer, and every week there's something new, which is awesome. Well, either from those breweries. There are breweries that are now doing, sour beers and barrel-aged beers, beer wine hybrids, super juicy hazy IPAs, traditional lagers. Like it's come a long way.
Chile has so many areas that you can grow organically. Are you seeing hop acreage being planted at all, or like wet hop beers or fresh hops?
We've seen a couple of hop farms start up, especially down in the south. But it's that scalability is so difficult to manage, I think, at the beginning. So a lot of the hop growers will, they'll give fresh hops to the local brewers down there. We're getting into sort of like the Patagonia area. So I mean, it's like if the logistics get harder, they literally like 2 years ago they paved the road that goes through part of Patagonia. So usually it just used to be a dirt road, and that would link think like from Texas to San Diego on a dirt road. It's crazy. And yeah, I mean, we're seeing some. We've done a wet hop beer a couple of years ago, but that was because I grew hops in my backyard, and it was like it took off. And I still don't know what hop it is. I have no idea. At some point, I'm gonna have to try to bring a rhizome through customs or ship it to myself in a like smuggle it to myself basically in the U.S. to see if somebody can tell me what it is.
That's
just get Ryan Brooks will do it. He smuggled down 11 pounds of hops in his suitcase. Went down there. Yeah. No, literally
put them all in your hair.
Ryan smuggled in a bunch of, I think it was like 11 or at least maybe even 22 pounds of hops.
Yeah, it was like 22 pounds. Yeah,
that we had, and Kara from White Labs brought in liquid yeast, and we used it at Tubinger for the first time.
He still owes me some balloons.
Look, I still have one.
Oh, nice. There you go. Oh. Yeah, the Americans.
Yeah,
it was all like
still got beer in it. Scary. Nice. Might be a bomb.
That's pretty cool, dude.
I would think it's probably a bomb. Yeah.
So you're integral to the development of craft beer enthusiasm in Chile, which is that's kind of like when you really stand back and you look at it and you see what it does to other parts of the world. That's a heavy load, man. I don't want to put the pressure on, but hey, I wouldn't leave it to anybody else. You also have a bar, and I didn't know this, dude.
Yeah.
We hadn't talked about this one. Mm-hmm. You have a bar.
Yeah, we have a bar. It's called El Honesto Mike. And it comes from the sort of the honest Don's used cars. Basically, we had an early business partner who actually left the company really early on. That his dad is named Miguel, and he always had a job, but he was always sort of doing these side hustles. And one of the side hustles. Yeah, we all know one of these guys, right? So Miguel started flipping used cars in this really small town, a little, like 3 hours south of Santiago. That's called Lol. LOLOL, which obviously for English speakers is hilarious.
That's just you're laughing.
yeah, laughing out loud. And basically, as kids often do to their parents, they started giving them a hard time for flipping used cars in this tiny little backwoods town. And they started calling him El Honesto Miguel, El Honesto Miguel, El Honesto Miguel, and then it became El Honesto Mike. And we thought it was so stupid that it was perfect. You know what I mean? It was such a dumb name that I was like, it's sort of like Seinfeldian, it was like a bar about nothing. And that's what it is. I mean, we're now, we call it we're a burger joint with extra joint.
We won't talk about that extra joint.
Yeah, we'll you know, it's legal in California, but not in Chile yet. But yeah, you know, we started with 20 lines of craft beer. I expanded the draft system to now do 30 lines, and then we have a cocktail on draft, and now we're doing wine on draft. And yeah, we're gonna open up a second bar in a different neighborhood called El Pulento Joe, and El Pulento is a 20-line craft beer bar.
Dope.
Yeah, man, it's been a trip.
Wow, dude. So
Yeah.
the steam, I mean, you guys are cooking with gas. I mean, you started as a importer of what was already a well-crafted beer. You went in to sell a lot more of well-crafted beers. You started making well-crafted beers, and now you're serving well-crafted beers. That is full circle, man. I think you're hitting all ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, we so you know, there's no 3-tier system here or anything like that. So I mean, there's nothing in the law here says what we can and can't do effectively. Like, as long as we're paying taxes, like, we can pretty much get away. I don't want to say get away with it. We can do it. It's not, you know, it's completely legal. So yeah, we import. We have a retail bottle shop, which is called Beervana, where we sell. I think we have about 250 different beers, which obviously includes imports from us, but you know, we have beers from Mikkeller, from Omnipolo, from, you know, Schneider Weiss, to Belgian, you know, the Chimay and Westmalls and traditional Trappist beers, you know, to beers from California. There's an importer that's now bringing in stuff like Great Divide and Epic, and Melvin. And the nice thing is, like, you know, we started importing all of our beers are imported cold. Everything goes cold. It's all stored cold. That's an integral part of our company sort of vision. And now a lot of other breweries are like, oh, refrigeration matters. Like, this is important for us for the quality of, it's just like, like, and so, you know, I'm really excited that, you know, some of these other, you know, importers are now following suit, and I don't have to worry as much about the quality of the beer, because I've seen some beers come down here that are just absolute disasters, and I know they taste great, you know, in the U.S. in most areas, you know, even if it's a brewery from California and they're selling it in, you know, Rhode Island, it tastes as it should, you know, and yeah, we've seen this. Where I'm going with this is that, you know, we have a retail shop. We distribute to, like, you know, well, pre-COVID, it was like 200 some odd bars and restaurants across the country, from the north of Chile to basically the extreme tip. You know, like, the next stop from that city is Antarctica. And yeah, we have a bar. We have another bar that we're going to open in a couple weeks. A brewery. Yeah, I mean, I think I have to start importing ingredients. We've kind of completed the whole circle.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
All I want to know is what kind of empanadas you make at the restaurant.
You know, I personally love empanadas, and I've been trying to convince my business partner, who's completely obsessed with burgers, that we should try to make an empanada burger. I don't know how. Ooh. You know what I mean? I remember in New York, I don't know if I ever took you to this place, Colby. It was this, like, Polish or Hungarian bar called Corso. Anyway,
I remember off.
They do a deep fried burger.
No, definitely not.
It's like, yeah, it was like a burger inside of what would be like an empanada, and then they just deep fry that bad boy, and it is unreal. So I was like, it could be done.
Ryan Glenn now owns the High Dive in San Diego.
Yeah.
And they're famous for the sriracha burger with the peanut butter and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are the bread, and the burger and bacon and sriracha peanut butter. I think it's in there. And
yeah, that sounds like it's something insane. I don't need to eat, but I want to eat.
You could use the empanadas as a bun.
Yeah, that too. I mean, we do,
like, you could do the
that like is we have a burger that's called we call it Chick Norris, which is like we call it the COVID killer. So it's a burger and then a piece fried chicken thigh on top of that with red eye gravy, and man, it is a beast. Jeez. But yeah, now the empanada thing. Now the gears are turning.
Look, man, I don't know what the hell you guys are thinking of, but it sounds delicious. It sounds very bad but good for you. What are you pairing? What are you pairing with that, Chick Norris? What are you pairing with that?
With Chick Norris, I usually try to go with something a little bit more malt forward. A nice American Amber, an ESB. That red eye gravy has all those coffee notes to it. And it's just like, it's sort of this melt in your mouth, sort of unctuous vibe. And I found personally that, that kind of beer just pairs well with the real, the quality of the meat that we're using. It's like a really nice, fat to, fat ratio.
Yeah.
And just that gravy, man, just like having that a little bit more, body, a little bit more depth goes super well.
What's the sandwich called with all the green beans on it and the mayonnaise?
Chacarero.
Yeah. Oh man, those are so
Chacareros
good.
are pretty diesel. Yeah.
I think Chef Chewy, when we were doing our online guided tasting, we brought on our sous chef Chuy Hernandez right here at Miramar, and as we were going through the beers, or as I was going through the beers, he would hop in and talk about a good pairing. I think he paired one of our beers with that particular dish.
Yeah, he got inspired, and he wanted to do like a Chilean style sandwich. I mean, I don't know why Chileans are, Argentina has, they're well known for beef and barbecue. The Peruvians are really well known for, fish and ceviche. And Chileans, for what it's worth, they go crazy for sandwiches. And they call them sandwiches, but I mean, you have to eat these things with a knife and fork. I mean, it's impossible to get, like, they're just massive.
Yeah.
Like, they're these giant, stacks of meat, and then a ridiculous amount of mayonnaise, usually, all homemade. So everyone has their own, recipe for that. But yeah, the one that Colby's talking about is called Chacarero, and it has green beans. It's like sliced, super thin sliced, like sort of like a roast beef or like a prime rib type of cut. And then on top of that, mayonnaise, and then these green beans, and then a lot of time they use green chili, like we call it ají verde, which I think it's sort of in the like jalapeno sort of realm of spiciness.
Right.
It's nothing crazy, but like it'll get you,
Yeah, one or two.
Yeah. And yes, I mean, that's a classic. The other one is like, churrasco, which is like, they call it Italiano. So it's like, it looks like the Italian flag. So it's tomato, mayonnaise, and avocado, just all smashed together, and it's unreal. They're so good.
Dude, it sounds like a virtual round table where we do a food and pairing kind of mind meld is in order for us soon.
For sure. Absolutely. I'm down. Whenever you guys want to do that, I'm in.
Look,
in Santiago.
Come on down. I want to start opening up at some point, Absolutely. I would love it.
That sound. It's almost like a sound of a baseball bat hitting the baseball right out of the park.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see Swinging Friars Ale and the Pinstripe Lager. I'm pretty I'm very
Swinging Friar for sure. Swinging Fry for sure, but this Pinstripe Lager that we're drinking, by the way, we're recording this on the 2nd of October, and we're really excited for this particular day, this particular game, and that's why Colby just cracked open one of these very limited exclusive beers, the Pinstripe Padres Lager. We're not sure if it's very hard to find, Ben Wood. I will save you some. I don't know how well it's going to age, but But
I kind of feel like it needs a brown bag.
Bring back the brown bag.
Yeah.
Well, it's a 7% lager. I mean, you can feel, I mean, you can feel the body from the alcohol in it. it'll get you where you're watching baseball. That's for sure.
I don't even want to talk about. I don't even want to talk about how delicious it is in front of Ben right now because I don't know if he's ever going to get this. But the Swinging Friars Ale, our pale ale, that's solid, man. Well, I don't know how you get beer down there. In fact, Colby has the biggest. That's one full batch that went into one bottle.
Yeah. You can just send us one of those.
I just want to see the bottle opener. Ben,
it's my wedding ring.
Yeah.
Ben, on that note, like we're talking about these beers that you can. How do you get beer down there? Like, how do you get our beer down there? You you mentioned a little earlier that it's not just about putting it in a box and FedExing it over here. So what's up with that?
Yeah. So basically, our process is pretty. It's a long process, and it's a long process because we have to order beer. Usually, it's very nice. It's a smart way of doing it. We order beer to the brewing schedule, so we know that if we order beer 4 weeks in advance, we're going to get the freshest possible beer that we can at that time. Because nobody wants to get a 6-month-old IPA on the other side of the planet as a fresh beer. So from us, basically all the beer gets put on a pallet or palletized, sorry. And then we ship, we'll send a refrigerated 40-foot container, which is, it's exactly, they refer to it as a reefer.
Good name.
And a little double entendre there. And from there, basically we load it up and we go we usually start at sort of the southernmost brewery in our portfolio and work our way north. And basically we fill the container, all the equipment gets turned on. So we maintain the beer at about 37 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees. For the length of the journey from Long Beach, California to Valparaiso, which is the coastal city.
Oh my gosh.
And that takes about 22 days to get from San Diego or from Long Beach to Valparaiso. And then it's usually about 26 days. The whole process, that's when it gets to our shelves. So we try to get our beer as fresh as possible from the source to make sure that, if we get a beer that's a month old, we're super happy about that.
So you check in with the brewery, these different brewers, and then you go like, hey, looking for Sculpin, looking for Coronado beer, looking for a Firestone beer. When are you guys brewing that next? And then they go, oh, well, it's on our schedule. Blank. All right, cool. Yep. And then your process goes into order, and then refrigerated all the way down. That deserves a standing ovation.
Thank you. It's very important to us. I mean, I've tried beers that that have come to Chile not refrigerated, and it's sort of a slap in the face to the brewers. How many people are working behind you right now? You know what I mean? Like, how many people are putting in hours and hours and hours of work, to do this,
around the clock.
And it's like, you're basically just, spitting in their face about, if you're not taking care of the beers. I mean, our mantra here is like, if you take care of the beer's going to take care of you. So, I mean, very little, we have, every now and again we have some, issues with oxidation or something like that. I mean, that's kind of comes with the sort of the territory when you come to exporting beer, especially, bottles, that crown cap. I mean, they're not built to last for
right.
Years on end. But a lot of breweries are moving over to the can. I mean, and that's a great, vessel for us, to get beer on the other side of the planet. And yes, I mean, that's part of it. That's like no beer will ever come through us, from the US unrefrigerated. It's just like, it's not even a question.
Wow.
It raises the price, but it is what it is. That's
but I've always said I'd rather pay $1 more for a beer that's been treated right than $1
Yeah.
less for a beer that I'm not going to buy two of. You know what I mean?
It's like I know exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It's like I know what a sculpin tastes like. A fresh sculpin, like it's it's very specific. And when you have, I remember talking to this guy. He was bless him. He was super excited. He's like, "Oh, I'm starting this aging program at my bar, and I want to get all these beers." He's like, I have 2 cases of Sculpin from 2014. And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "No. And I was like, "Have you? Are they cold?" And he's like, "No, I just it's like in like the basement of my house." I was like, "Oh no." Like, so it's like that sort of education part about like, hey, if it's an IPA, like you should drink it as fresh as possible. And like little by little, people are starting to learn about how to age beers and how to set up a cellar and do stuff like that.
You're a certified Cicerone, and that in San Diego it becomes a dime a dozen kind of thing, and that's not in a bad way at all. That's like the more the merrier. But the fact of the matter is that when a guy like you can go down into a world where the interest exists, but maybe the methodology needs some tweaking and stuff, and it's a beautiful opportunity for you to kind of share what you've invested in. You've invested in learning all of this stuff, and at some point you go like, well, here's a perfect opportunity for me to share it with everybody. And you're not only helping that particular brewer or bar owner or seller, you're helping the community, because that stuff works, and you got to trust the process. And once you do, it spreads like wildfire, and that's why you're doing so good.
Yeah, I mean, it was the certified Cicerone thing came about for me. When I first moved down here, I got the opportunity to. I was working at something else. I wasn't all that happy. And, like I mentioned before, I was sort of this guinea pig at my job in New York, where I represented a couple different brands. And one of the brands that I worked with, apart from Ballast Point, was this Belgian importer called Van Bergen de Wolf. And Don and Wendy, the owners, they were pioneers in the U.S. beer scene. And they were the first people to import Duvel to the country. We're talking like 1982, 1983. And they started Omegang, which is a brewery in upstate New York, which is very like Belgian beer focused. So they built these breweries, and eventually, they sold them off to different other, like they sold Omegang to Duvel, and they kind of got out of the game a couple years ago. But before they did that, I was working with them. I was known as their portfolio guru, and my job was basically to contact bars and restaurants and bottle shops in the U.S., their sort of key accounts in different states, and talk to them about, the different beers that we offered and stuff like that. And the opportunity came to go back to New York after Hurricane Sandy basically, leveled parts of New York. And we decided to do a beer dinner with a bunch of different breweries and different brewery reps in New York, and they flew me to New York to conduct the beer dinner. And I figured, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to New York, and the closest Cicerone test for the certified level was in Buffalo. So I don't know, if you guys have ever driven from New York City to Buffalo, New York, but it's about a 7-hour ride. And so I hopped in the car with a buddy of mine who just happened to be going to Buffalo for Buffalo Beer Week. And I had very little time to study. I was very underprepared. We hadn't started Beervana yet, so I didn't have access to decent beer to try and taste. And, I could find all the off flavors in the world, but I couldn't try like, solid fresh beer. So I went up to take the test, and I failed. I mean, it was a great learning experience, but I completely blew it. I came back, and then a couple years ago, I decided to take the test again. And I passed, and I became the first certified Cicerone in Chile.
What? I didn't know that part.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I was the one and only for a while. And then Cicerone decided to launch in Spanish. So now there's about 12 certified Cicerones in Chile. There's a couple more in Argentina. There's a handful in Peru. There's a bunch in Brazil, and sort of scattered throughout Central America into Mexico.
Wow.
But yeah, it's all certified. Cicerone's now doing everything in Spanish, which is great. And now I'm hoping to do the advanced tests whenever they can do it. I think it's a great sort of feather in the cap. It's sort of it kind of puts everybody on the same page, and you have a certain standard of knowledge that you can work with. And it's been great, and it's something you have to explain to people because they're like, "Wait, you do what?" And I'm like, "Well,
yeah,
I do a bunch of stuff, but I have this certification that I have no problem explaining to 100 people in a room how to taste a beer, or what we're looking at when we're really getting into the nitty gritty about tasting and different flavor components and what we're looking for and what we're not looking for, pairings and all that fun stuff."
Yeah, no, it's important.
I have two questions.
Go for it.
First question is, are the dogs in Santiago still dressed better than you?
Most of them.
Most of them? They still have lots of nice sweaters going on. And
yeah, in the wintertime, I mean, I don't know why or how Chile is like synonymous with, unfortunately, Chile has a lot of like stray dogs, which they've kind of, it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I've heard that.
A lot of like, different like foundations that have started to help street dogs. And actually, our brewery, we came out with a beer that's called Cholito, which for Cholitos in Chile are like what you refer to as like a street dog, not cholo, Cholito.
Not like a cholo or cholo squinkle. It's just
exactly. So we created a beer. It's a brown ale that we donate 10% of all the profits to different foundations to help dogs find homes and adoptions and stuff like that. So yeah, unfortunately, it breaks my heart. I mean, I'm a big animal person, and it just kills me when you see dogs on the street.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's great.
People take care of them and they give them sweaters in the winter, and like it's pretty funny.
I think just for that reason alone, I'll never take my wife to Santiago. She would want to adopt all 1,000 of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. My second question is, I'm just a drinking tourist. I'm showing up in Santiago, and you know what I mean? What do I do? Like, what are two places that I have to go to?
Gotta go to Alameda Beer Company, bro.
Yeah. No, I think there's a couple. There's a couple of like really classic drinks in Chile that are worth noting. One is Pisco. So Pisco it's sort of an age-old battle with Peru. Because everyone refers, when people think about Peru and national drinks, they're like, oh, Pisco. Pisco's Peruvian, which it is, but it's also Chilean. So there's this sort of battle. It's a very like ridiculous and very comical.
It's different fight, though, right? They taste different.
It is. They do taste different. There's a different. I mean, there are different, some different grapes and different altitudes and the way they're growing them. But it's kind of like effectively, it's a brandy. It's like a fortified wine. But it's made from white grapes, like Torontel and Pedro Jimenez and that sort of vibe. And Pisco sours, Piscola, which is basically Pisco and Coca-Cola. Those are like staples here. And for something like that, going out to the coast, to Valparaiso, which is like the San Francisco of South America, it's 17 different hills, all connected with different like elevators and stuff like that. wild. But there's a couple places out there that are really awesome for drinks. And then in Santiago, there's a bar recently that's called La Provencia, which is this really awesome cocktail bar, which I was able to go to for the first time in 6 months this week. And they're like aficionados on booze. For beer, obviously, Ernesto might. And then the other classic Chilean drink is called a terremoto. So that's an earthquake, right? So what they do is they take, this is like a very classic national holiday drink, like our 4th of July in Chile. So they take pipeño. Pipeño is young, unaged wine. So it's super high octane. You know, it's usually like 16 or 17%, you know, ABV. They mix it with pineapple ice cream.
Ooh.
And grenadine.
Ooh.
And it is absolutely delicious, but it will get you so rocked so fast. And they call it an earthquake because you need like 2 or 3 and you're, you know, all over the place. Right. And there's 2 places. One is called La Piojera, which is like a very classic, like Chilean, like canteen or like saloon. You know, it's like dirt floors still. I think it was built in like, you know, the early 1900s. And then there's another one called El Hoyo, right? Which is the
I already want to go. Go.
So, and then they also have, I'm trying to keep this family friendly, but they have a sandwich. They have a tongue sandwich. Mm-hmm. So they always say you have to go get la lengua en el hoyo. You have to get a tongue in your hole.
All right.
Sounds
but
delicious.
They also do like, yeah, it actually is really good. but yeah, so like, yeah, Pisco, terremotos, and then obviously wine. I mean, Chile is a really amazing wine producing country. It's not as sort of well seen maybe in North America. There's a lot of like really mass, like huge vineyards that sell sort of $2 chuck all over the U.S.
Right.
But there's a lot of really cool small natural winemakers that are coming up, yeah, there's some really cool little bars all over the place that you can find like really awesome wine at.
Listen, Dan Trees, you are the man. I love talking to guys like you, people like you that are pretty much forging ahead. You know, you guys are what you're doing over there for that particular spot of the world is what somebody at some point did for this particular spot of the world, and we are all benefiting from it, and we are happier because of it. So I really thank you for doing that. You're the perfect guy to be doing it, dude. You're charismatic, you're handsome, your hair is phenomenal, and you love beer. All I want to tell everybody listening is that you don't have to be in Chile to take advantage of everything that you offer. Beervana, just follow them on Instagram or whatever social channel. The information that you spew out on your live tastings and stuff like that, anywhere from beer to I saw one with a cheesemaker, a local cheesemaker. I mean, there's so much to learn on it, and you're really helping the community there, but you're also helping a large demographic and portion of the communities over here, you know, when they tune in.
Yeah, we've had a lot of luck, or not, I shouldn't say luck. I mean, we've had a really great reaction from people. Like I said, I mean, you know, it's funny for me, like I'm a gringo, you know, like I'm from one of the, you know, whitest areas that you could possibly think of, you know, like the hill country, the forest of Northwest Connecticut. I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I learned Spanish here. You know, I had some background in French, and I wound up, you know, in a different part of the world that it was like it was a, you know, swim or sink sort of situation. You know what I mean? And it was like, I'm going to learn Spanish or I'm going to go home, you know? And it's been really great. I mean, you know, people are really they are really receptive to the fact that I'm really into education about beer in general. And I try to keep it in Spanish as much as I possibly can. And we've had a great reception, a lot of great response from other countries, you know, that are like, hey, like, I can't get these beers in my country, but like, I'm super excited that I can learn about them in my own language, you know, even if it's like I have, you know, my terrible accent or whatever.
You speak you speak Spanish very well, my friend.
Thank you. But like, I speak Chilean Spanish. That's the trick. That's the hard part.
It gets you.
Has its own sub language of Spanish. It's a mix of like indigenous Mapudungun, which is the native language, and Spanish. You know what I mean? So we use a lot of words that don't exist in any other country. But you know,
how convenient.
Yeah, and it's like I have to like sort of stop and think that, you know, what I'm saying to people may not translate, you know, across, you know, the rest of the Spanish speaking world. But yeah, it's been fun, man. It's a really it's very fun to do, and I really enjoy the whole process of, you know, writing out the script and making sure that the information that I'm conveying is actually relevant, you know, to the beer scene, at least in Chile, but hopefully the rest of South America. Right. And yeah, the response has been fantastic, so I can't complain.
Do you have a Chilean nickname? Do they call you something?
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, I won the nickname of Dan Trees in the U.S.
Right.
And I took it upon myself to name myself my own Spanish name. So people refer to me now as Benito Madera. Right. So Ben Wood.
That sounds badass. All right, Benito Madera.
Sounds like you should be in a cartel.
I mean, I kind of
sounds like you already are in one. We should talk about it. I have kids. I don't want to be involved in that. Benito Madera, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Colby, like Thanks, always. Guys. And let's go ahead and look, dude, we're in the era of Slam Diego. So finish whatever you got in your cup.
I will. I promise.
How about that? Salud, cheers, caballero. Guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for all you've done over the years, man. It's been
my pleasure.
Being on the road working with you. Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. That was amazing. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the rest of our episodes on Ballast Point's YouTube page, channel, whatever. You can follow us on ballastpoint.com, Instagram, Facebook, all that jam. I'll see you next time, and thanks for tuning in.